Hello, my name is Arbia from ISET of Xarel from Tunisia. Today I represent the work Distance Learning for Entrepreneurship, the Satisfaction of Learners. This work is prepared by Professor Samir Akachi and Professor Arbia. The challenge of success of distance education is becoming inevitable, particularly in contexts where the COVID-19 pandemic has made his mode of learning a reality which will henceforth impose itself without hindsight. The integration of information technologies and communication in the domain of education led to a new teaching of entrepreneurship, which called the distance education. While this learning is most often based on methods designed to be effective in a face-to-face mode reality, the satisfaction of learners and the effectiveness of this new teaching methods are two cornerstones of our research. In fact, the literature review is as below. Although research focusing on distance learning tends to show that it works well with entrepreneurs, a lot of work remains to be done to build good practices in matter. And the definition of an entrepreneur pedagogy based on learning remains a file to be developed. The studies only partially cover the issues raised in this area and mainly address face-to-face teaching. The distance learning for entrepreneurship raises three major issues. First, the satisfaction of the learners of the integration of ICT in the learning of entrepreneurship. Second, the possible transposition of distance teaching devices and the development of new teaching tools. And third, a particular pedagogy which satisfies the learners and which requires a new posture on the part of the teacher. So the improvement of the result of the distance learning is at the heart of the interest of several researchers. Indeed, several of them were led to interesting disciplines to study the determining factors of the improvement of result of distance learning. More particularly, the distance learning of entrepreneurship is a specific challenge which requires investigation and exploration on various relevant phases. A change of posture that is required on the part of the teacher, the latter becoming a mentor of learning rather than a custodian transmitter of knowledge. What is more challenging in this examination of a new standard of success and effectiveness of learning for the entrepreneurial profession with a view of transition to distance education? So our study is consisting on focusing on this design of distance study program in entrepreneurship based on innovative pedagogical approaches aimed at acquisition of experiential knowledge and authentic learning by the student. Also, our objective is to dismantle and demonstrate that the satisfaction of learners and the effectiveness of this new educational mode cannot be done without the professor taking advantage and the percepts of the program approach and the professional posture of the practitioner researcher in education. We have two research questions. First, what satisfaction of learners for this new mode of distance learning? Secondly, what professional posture should the professor adopt to develop the satisfaction of the learners? So, as methodology, we developed a questionnaire which we transmitted by Google Drive to the two students appearing on the basis of data of students of Higher Institute of Technological Studies of Sidi Bouzid and Ksararal in Tunisia, who had new experience with distance education of entrepreneurship, which has become compulsory in Tunisia in the new context of pandemic COVID-19. This free application of Google allowed to send questionnaires by email and Tweety immediately answers. We first sent the questionnaire on 14 January 2021 Further to the successive launching, each made after 15 days, reached us to a sample constituted by 277 students. The collected data were treated for the software and statistical analysis SPSS. We are based in a quantitative approach to test 12 hypotheses. We propose the dimension of the learners, the dimensions of the teacher, the dimensions of the technology. Now for about the results. For the determinants of the learner, we found a positive impact on the satisfaction received from the entrepreneurial learner in the online environment. Also, the motivation of the learner has no impact on the satisfaction received from the learner in an online environment, while the anxiety of the learners to the computer has a negative impact in the satisfaction received from the learner in an online environment, and the proposal efficiency with regard the computer has no impact on the satisfaction received from the learner in an online environment. And finally, the style of individual learning has no impact on the satisfaction received from the learner as an online environment. About the determiners of the teacher, we found that the speed of answer received from the teacher does not have impact on the satisfaction received from the learner and in online environment. Also, the style of education has a positive impact on the satisfaction received from the learner in an online environment. About the determiners of the technology, bandwidth has a negative impact on the satisfaction received from the learner in an online environment, while the complexity of use has a negative impact on the satisfaction received from the learner and an online environment, and the use of the website has a negative impact on the satisfaction received from the learner in an online environment. It is now the discussion. The teacher of entrepreneurship must be aware of its various determinants in support of the success of this new mode of teaching and the new variables of the success of learning. Since the start of the sanitary quarantine imposed by the global COVID-19 pandemic, the offer of courses and programs in entrepreneurship has been exclusively remote. However, the program component of the course offer remains to be improved in the coming years as some learning components are poorly served. About teacher of entrepreneurship, they improved the satisfaction of the learner by experimenting with a small cohort of learning given by both a mentor and a teacher, which maximizes collective learning among students. The entrepreneurship professors of the Higher Institute of Technological Studies of City Buzit and Xarelal have developed, of course, with an interactive study where the student is entrusted with a mission and must complete it as and when his work is guarded in a maximum of 4 weeks in realistic working conditions. Administrative resolution of business mandates, simulation of email exchanges between the agent and the principal, etc. So, according to our knowledge, this research includes one of the first studies which tried to estimate the satisfaction of the distance learning for entrepreneurship with regard to the main actors of the system of the e-learning, namely the teacher and the technology. Also, the result of the research show that the entrepreneurship teachers are at the High Institute of Technological Studies of Sidi Bouzid and Xarilal are well aware of the limits of transposing teacher strategies from face-to-face to distance learning. Application. Particular attention should be paid to the scoring system in order to verify the transfer of learning carried out with this type of operation. In addition of the technical and financial aspect that determine the satisfaction of the Tunisian distance learner for entrepreneurship and the effectiveness of the programs and the new teaching environment, it is a set of in-depth research that will make it possible to develop the appropriate tools to promote this satisfaction and the achievement of objectives of this specific discipline on all levels. The practitioner researcher posture and their consciousness of the constraints seems the most promising for teachers for throughout the possible obstacle for distance entrepreneurship education. Faced with the constraint detected, teachers of entrepreneurship are required to take a reflective approach to their own teaching method and to develop new tools focused on student learning and based on formal and theoretical knowledge in university pedagogy. Teachers are required also to periodically assess the effectiveness of their distance learning approach and learner satisfaction. A suggestion for further research. The study is specific to a particular population, the students who are registered in the distance learning for entrepreneurship in higher education, which indicates that the generalization of the result for other domains must be seen with caution. Also, it would be interesting to integrate the same variable for a study on the result of the distance learning for entrepreneurship by integrating more that the satisfaction received from learners and the efficiency of the distance learning, the quality of the process, and the output of this new mode of learning, which can be estimated by experts of education. This research also could be consolidated in future research by means of verifying the obtained results through adopting a triangulation of both methods of data collection, quantitative and qualitative. Thank you for your attention.